In a zombie apocalypse, some folks are built for survival, while others might as well wear a "bite me" sign and give up. Here are some of the smartest and absolute dumbest characters in The Walking Dead. Andrea. Andrea's whole vibe was overconfidence without the skills to back it up. Remember when she first used her gun? It was a total disaster. Aim all over the place, unable to operate it properly, until Dale and Shane taught her. But would she ever fully listen to advice from others? Nope. She always acted insecure and defensive. Weeks later, she's out there popping bottles by the highway, ignoring warnings about ricochets like they're just suggestions. When she got to Herschel's farm, she immediately latched onto Shane's survival at all cost philosophy and backed his plan to bust open the barn doors. Great job, Andrea. That little stunt shattered group morale, destroyed Maggie's trust, and turned the farm into a Walker buffet. Then Woodbury comes along with its ice-cold lemonade and charismatic governor, and she's completely mesmerized by solar panels and clean clothes. Michonne tried to warn her that something was off, but Andrea just called her jealous and allowed herself to be persuaded into certainty that this was the way forward, permanently. Even though Michonne saved her life, Andrea completely abandoned her. By the time she made her last-ditch diplomatic mission, Axel was already dead, and the prison guard towers were burning. Her final moment came when she hesitated with pliers inches from freedom, choosing to talk instead of cutting her way out of restraints. One Walker bite later, and all her speeches about hope went silent. Courage without reflection is basically just a death wish, much like her confidence without skills and inability to listen to advice. But as much as she was annoyingly arrogant, she wasn't a literal psychopath who never took advice or listened to the light. Lizzie Samuels. Lizzie's mind got stuck somewhere between bedtime stories and horror movies. This girl would try to befriend walkers and connect with them, showing how lost she was from reality. She genuinely believed walkers were just playing around and wanted to be understood rather than hunting for their next meal. When Patrick caught that deadly flu, Lizzie saw the infected in the prison as some kind of beautiful results of transformation, rather than a deadly infection that needed to be fought and avoided. She was dissecting animals where nobody could see, convinced she was somehow doing something good in her twisted mind. During the prison attack, Carol screamed for her to take headshots, but Lizzie just froze, unable to kill what she believed to be a still living person. After they fled the prison, Lizzie spent campfires correcting Tyrese whenever he called walkers dead, insisting they were just changing. Things went from weird to terrifying at that cabin when she giggled at a walker stuck in mud and trying to play tag with another one. When Mika tried to be the voice of reason, Lizzie killed her under the guise of helping her change to be like the undead, who she imagined were living the best lives. Little Judith, wrapped in a blanket, was next on her list before Carol intervened and ended the threat forever. Carol's heart broke making that decision, but Lizzie's final view of Pretty Flowers showed how untreated delusion in this world is more dangerous than any walker bite. Sometimes the monsters aren't the ones with rotting flesh. Spencer Monroe. Spencer rode the privilege train right into the apocalypse. While his mom was busy planning wall erections and security strategies, this guy was stealing jerky and practicing pickup lines in Alexandria's welcome parlor. After Rick's group cleared out the walker herd, Spencer organized a secret pantry party, sipping wine while everyone else mourned their losses. He flirted with Rosita, bragged about his strategic vision, but never actually joined a walker sweep or put himself at risk on the outside. He was completely sheltered from hardship and had no logical understanding of the undead world he was living in. When he learned about his mother's death, he blamed the outsiders, but offered no real plan except someone reasonable should lead, meaning himself, obviously. Meeting Negan at the gate, he praised order, suggested that Rick caused chaos, and offered his local knowledge for an alliance where he would lead and take care of the hard work. Negan listened, then asked why Spencer talked about leadership without ever spilling blood for others. The gut slash that followed exposed Spencer's hollow core as literally as it did figuratively. His organs decorated the asphalt like a graphic PowerPoint presentation about entitlement in the apocalypse and a warning against lusting after power you have no right to claim. Not everyone who died was awful, though. Some souls were just too pure for this brutal world. Shane Walsh. Shane's story is a complicated one. Rick Grimes' best friend went from his reliable backup on the police force to trying to kill him to take over the group they led in the apocalypse. Now, if Rick was making bad calls, maybe that could be understandable. But instead, it all came out of a lack of attention. Getting with Rick's wife when they thought he was dead gave Shane a sense of purpose, one which was stripped away when Rick miraculously made his way back to them. With his old buddy now calling the shots and, in Shane's eyes, stealing his family, the only form of control he had anymore was trying to take over the Atlanta group. With idea after idea being shot down by Rick, who prioritized the safety of his family, Shane's fuse was getting shorter, and eventually it led him to make some of the dumbest decisions in the show, from killing an innocent kid all the way to trying and failing to execute his best friend to steal his family away from him. He became an unrecognizable madman in his attempt to regain importance and attention, a far cry from the innocent and well-meaning police officer who saved Rick's family when the dead began to rise. Not everyone who died was awful, though. Some souls were just too pure for this brutal world. Beth Green. Beth's journey from optimist to fighter was cut short before she developed the survival skills to match her courage. At the prison, she became the medic runner, pinching IV tubes shut while Herschel stitched wounds. During the cell block flu outbreak, she sanitized gurneys and sang lullabies to calm frightened kids, while everyone else was digging graves. After the prison fell, she found a funeral home stocked with peanut butter jars, labeling shelves, and humming while Daryl set traps outside. She dreamed of becoming a nurse and making a real positive change in society. That dream got snatched away when she was abducted. Grady Memorial's weird barter-based economy actually valued her calming presence with patients, so she traded lollipops for gauze and swapped duties to learn drug dosages. She hid escape notes in secret locations and timed guard rotations with Noah. When their escape went south, Beth drew gunfire so Noah could escape through a window, taking a beating for her trouble. Later, when Dawn's leadership started cracking under pressure, Beth saw her opportunity. She planned to disable Dawn during the prisoner exchange, but she misjudged the distance, and Dawn's reflex pulled the trigger before Rick's crew could react. One bullet to the skull, and Hope's little songbird fell silent. Just goes to show that courage needs to borrow patience from wisdom if you want to live to fight another day. Now let's look at the man who wrote the book on surviving this messed UO world, one deadly mistake at a time. Rick Grimes. Rick's approach to survival was basically a living textbook that got updated after every disaster. Post-hospital Atlanta taught him a lot about how to preserve ammunition, avoid herds of undead, and even make deals with survivors to stay alive. On the CDC grounds, he learned that government resources were toast, so local leadership mattered more than ever. At the farm, he weighed Shane's survival-at-all-costs philosophy against Herschel's faith-based approach, and eventually fused them into his own risk the limb, not the heart doctrine of minimizing loss while remaining realistic. Prison operations showed his engineering mind at work, redirecting walkers with alarm systems, reinforcing fences with rebar braces, rotating crop rows to preserve soil, and channeling waste to fertilizer pits. He mapped escape routes for escapes or battle plans. When the governor's tank forced them out, Rick formed external alliances and still managed to find success despite the setbacks and challenges. Terminus taught him cannibal psychology and hostage rescue methods using sharpened belt buckles and hidden shivs. During the Savior conflict, Rick adopted time-on-target raids, hitting multiple outposts simultaneously to overwhelm enemy communications. When that failed, he switched to siege warfare, flooding the bullet factory with walkers to choke production. Each disaster rewired his approach, proving that leadership lives in edits to the manual of life, not first drafts. Rick wasn't perfect, but he was always learning, always adapting. If Rick was the strategist, his right-hand man was pure survival instinct in a leather vest. Daryl Dixon. Daryl's whole survival playbook mixes backwoods skills with razor-sharp observation. His childhood hunting experience taught him hunt patterns and quick shot placement to go for effective but silent kills. After society collapsed, those skills expanded into a complete forensic reading of the environment to ensure the safety of him and, for a while, his brother. The guy can spot a snapped weed stem and tell you a walker knee dragged through recently based on moisture, still clinging to the brake. He registers bird silence around a clearing and instantly knows there's an ambush waiting. His crossbow became an extension of himself. He adjusted limb tension for recycled bolts and matched draw weight to whatever cordage he could salvage, always adapting to the surroundings and making the most of his limited resources. He cataloged vehicle shortcuts, siphoned decades-old fuel from abandoned tractors, and filtered water through denim when charcoal wasn't available. Tracking Dwight through the burnt forest, Daryl noticed boot prints with offset heels, able to track him effectively. These layered instincts created a survival roadmap that other fighters followed without question. In a world where most people were just reacting, Daryl was always 3 steps ahead. Carol Pelletier. Carol's evolution is a masterclass in adaptation. Early days, she needed dough but secretly watched Shane's combat classes. After losing Sophia, she practiced knife techniques on tree trunks when nobody was looking. At the prison, she led children's reading groups while secretly teaching those kids how to clear jammed pistols. When she stormed Terminus, she rigged propane tanks with bottle rockets, then disappeared into smoke like some apocalypse ninja. Nobody ever knew if Carol was bringing soup or setting a trap, and that uncertainty gave her the edge in every confrontation. But if Carol was the master of deception, our next survivor was the king of psychological warfare and manipulation, Negan Smith. Negan combined charisma with calculated brutality. He forced recruits to kneel, linking their relief from torment with a single word of permission: rise. Lucille, that barbed wire bat, worked as both weapon and mascot. Just placing it on a table would freeze any argument and make people listen to Negan's twisted sense of reason. Standing on trails lit by floodlights made him tower over his lieutenants, cementing the hierarchy and making it clear at all times who ran the show. While Rick plotted revenge, Negan rotated patrols every so often to prevent insider rebellions or payoffs, showing that he always thought one step ahead. After his lengthy imprisonment, he cultivated vegetables in a brick-walled garden, impressing Judith with his abilities. During the Whisperer conflict, he skinned walkers, endured their stench, and listened to Alpha's crazy sermons until he spotted his opportunity to end her threat for good. At the perfect moment, he decapitated her violently, bringing her head to Carol as a peace offering. His ability to adapt kept Negan relevant long after his crew started cracking under pressure. Say what you want about the man's methods, but he understood survival required more than just fear. and had the brains to run a huge, elaborate network of groups that gathered resources and used walkers for traps. While Negan ruled with a bat, our next survivor conquered the apocalypse with something even more powerful: his mind alone. Eugene Porter. Eugene's brain was like a storage unit for blueprints and questionable moves. After the outbreak, he forged a new identity as a scientist to secure Abraham's protection, reciting random information about infection, conflict, and probability in order to seem credible. Some of his crazy feats of intellect include reverse engineering a rundown munitions factory to mass-produce ammo for his group when supplies were low, booby-trapping the Savior's cartridges so their rifles exploded, which allowed the Allied communities to rebel against them, crafting a portable lure that diverted an entire walker herd, and improvising life-saving antiseptics and IV fluids in the field. He had a heart as big as his brain, and always did his best to do the right then when it counted, even if it involved reluctantly getting his hands dirty. So that's been the smartest and dumbest characters from The Walking Dead. Do you agree with our picks, or is there somebody else you'd put in? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want to see more of The Walking Dead content, click the video on screen now.